In just 8 months, I have lost 10 pounds of body fat and gained 5 pounds of muscle mass. And I'm gonna break down exactly what I did. If you're new here, I'm Sam Cutler. Welcome to my channel, where we dive into all of the health and wellness things that I have done to completely transform my life. I also share what I eat in a day, days in the life, and just my story as the founder of Mindfull nutrition app and how I've transformed my health and healed chronic health conditions through nutrition. Nutrition goes so far beyond just what's on our plate. It truly impacts every single area of our life and how we operate day to day. Now, I could dive into this forever, but specifically for this video, we're talking about how nutrition and lifestyle habits impact body composition. And even more so than that, what we're talking about is how you can pull from some of my tips to actually see changes in your own body composition for good. If you want to learn more about nutrition for changing your body composition and recomposition steps as a whole, we just launched a 28-day e-course on Mindfull where we dive into all of the things I'm going to be covering today. So a 28-day step-by-step course with mini course material every single day to get you closer to real, true change. We also have additional experts like doctors and personal trainers jumping into the program, and you're going to move through 28 days of truly understanding what it takes to actually change your body composition. Not to mention, this program also comes with a 28-day meal plan, but then we also layer on an additional piece because it is so important to understand how to build your own meals and make your own meal plan. So for the first time ever, we are helping you understand how to build meal plans and pull from the Mindfull recipe catalog to make meal plans that actually contribute to improving your individual goals. So when we're talking about body composition, everyone might have different goals, from building muscle to lowering fat, but you also might just be looking to clear your skin, increase your energy, get all of the benefits from nutrition. So we're going to walk you through for the first time ever how to build your meal plan, but if you want to just follow the done for you one, it's going to be there as well. If you're new here, I completely transformed my body over the past 10 years, and it has been a long journey, but it's really the past 8 months that my body composition completely changed. If you haven't watched my intro video, I strongly suggest checking it out because I dive into everything that happened to me over the past 10 years, and boy, is it a lot. But basically, for the start of this 8-month journey that I'm going to take you on, I was already eating whole foods most of the time. So my diet consisted of 80-20 eating, which means that 80% of my foods were in their whole natural state, leaning on whole veggies, grains, fruits, protein sources, really just talking about one ingredient items that come from the earth. The other 20% was really whatever I wanted it to be, and it still is pretty much today with a few small tweaks. Now, this is something that I changed a while ago, but I'm going to call this out right now because a lot of women listening are probably thinking that they're eating really healthy, but they're also incorporating processed food in that 20 category that's labeled as healthy or diet foods, but they're actually fully disrupting their gut. So what we want to do is try to get that 20% to really be focused on some of those fun foods and some of those processed foods that help elevate your meals, the taste, your experience, but leaves you room to just live your life, because we don't want to just go through this process feeling good to not be able to enjoy it and live our life. But we don't want to fill up on processed ingredients and diet foods just because somebody tells us they're healthy for us. So we need to pay a lot of attention. So one of the things that I needed to do through this entire process was pay attention to things that I was grabbing from those health bars or even protein powders and packaged items. What the heck is in those, right? We know we should be having additional protein in our diet, and adding protein powder is a crucial way to do that. But what we don't want to do is be adding a bunch of junk into our digestive system, disrupting our gut, our hormones, our blood sugar first thing in the morning. That ain't for us. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing that I did. And I did this actually before the past 8 months. It's been over the past 2 years that started this initial shift. So the first thing is leaning into food freedom. Food freedom means that you're lowering the stress around what you're eating, and you're actually just embracing truly eating whole foods. Why this is so important is that additional stress actually causes you to retain more fat. Yes, and that stress can come from stressing about what you're eating, the calories, the macros, all of that stuff. So it's really, really important in this process to actually think about lowering your stress in every area. It's not just your work stress, it's not just your home stress, but if you are so hyper stressed about what you're eating, it is going to impact your body composition and cause you to retain additional fat that you don't want. So food freedom lets you shed that guilt, shed that stress, and stop counting calories, grams, macros. Yes, you heard me. I'm going to teach you about body recomposition without counting grams or macros or calories. I know, it's kind of crazy. Stick with me on this. So let's get away from that stress and let's dive into some of the habits that we need to be doing. So we want to think about what we're eating and how we're eating it, and we want to calm our nervous system when we go into eating it. So put down your fork in between meals, take deep breaths, really come into it. And that's when we talk about mindful eating. It's not just being mindful of what's on your plate, but yes, it is as well. But being mindful, come into your body, stop the distractions of everything around you, from TV to arguments to working while you're eating. I know you're doing it. Put down your computer and take a lunch break, you guys. That's going to help calm your nervous system to actually break down the food properly and stop storing excess fat. Okay, now, this is where we get into some of the biggest changes that happened over the past 8 months. Are you ready? Now, food freedom was already a part of my routine, and I had completely transformed my body. Let's get this up on screen. This is my before and my after. 7 to 8 months ago, I had lowered inflammation drastically. I had lowered bloat, healed my skin, grown my hair and nails, and overall healed my gut to get so much healthier. Not to mention the fact that I healed anxiety, depression, and so many additional mental health things that I was dealing from this chronic inflammation and imbalance in my gut. And all of this truly healed through nutrition. And these are the exact recipes that I created on Mindfull that I share with my community. And this is really what transformed my relationship with food. I stopped stressing, I stopped counting calories, I leaned into whole foods and healing foods, and all of this changed. But about a year ago to 8 months, I started thinking about really wanting to build muscle and get strong. I had reached this point where I felt like I was not plateauing with my health, but really just had lowered the inflammation, had healed my skin, and I wanted to see what else I could do. This is where I thought, okay, now I get to have fun and challenge myself into building the body that I really truly want. So first comes healing, and comes the changing of the relationship, really going after the things that are maybe limiting your confidence, so healing skin, all of that. And then as you move through that process and you've healed your gut, you start to lower the inflammation, you start to feel a lot better. You can get so into the fun things and the fun tweaks that actually change your body composition. And that's why we're here in this video. So the number one thing that I changed was sugar. You guys, sugar, I can't even talk about this enough. Let's dive into it. There are different types of sugar, which is one of the most important things to talk about as we talk about sugar and body recomposition. So there's natural forms of sugar like fruits, berries are amazing. A lot of this is great in helping us balance our blood sugar. But there's also additional types of sugar that we need to build muscle, like complex carbs. Yes, carbs are a form of sugar. A lot of people don't necessarily know what complex carbs are, so let's break it down. Complex carbs are things like whole grain rice or sweet potato, quinoa, carbohydrates that have not been stripped of their nutritional value. When we talk about simple carbohydrates, we're actually stripping them of a lot of the nutrients that we need to benefit from. So white pastas, white breads, white rices, all of that are stripped simple carbohydrates that are just really converted into sugar in the body. And yes, we do need carbohydrates for sustained energy sources and also for building muscle and really supporting our body in that muscle development. We don't need just protein. We need those complex carbs. We need that fiber. We need the whole picture to really build those muscles. But we need to talk about the quality of the sugar that we're consuming and what that really means for recomposition. So, fruits, yes, that is a solid yes for me. I eat a smoothie every single day, you guys. Fruits are amazing. And certain fruits actually help support your blood sugar, like berries, like grapefruit, and so many different things that we put in our smoothies at Mindful. And of course, like we just heard, complex carbs are important. But those stripped sugars or processed sugars are where it gets tricky. But we have to also think about these natural types of sugar, like coconut sugar or agave, that are disguised as coming from a natural source. And yes, they are, but they've still been processed to become the sugar that we're consuming in our salad dressings, in our sauces, and in a lot of what's creeping into our routine. So, what's really important here is going to be checking your ingredients, checking the labels in what you're eating to see what's actually added. But the other piece that's really important is education. If you don't know what is a simple carbohydrate versus a complex carbohydrate, or what is processed sugar versus whole natural sugars, you're going to be stuck with a giant question mark even when you're checking labels. So we can't just say, check the labels, pay attention to what you're eating. We have to actually dive into the education around what we're eating and what those things mean, which is literally why we're doing this 28-day e-course. But why do we care about the excess sugar? Well, when we have excess sugar, guess what, my friends? Not ideal, but it's converted into fat. And it creates excess fat storage on our body, and that's just getting in the way of our body recomposition. So if we're looking to lower fat and build muscle, we have to really look at the sugar that we're consuming. We started this body recomposition program on Mindfull with 3 parts. The first was a 14-day sugar reset where you actually got to understand a lot more about the sugars that you're putting in your body. If you haven't checked it out, I strongly suggest it. Can we cue a before and after of my own personal experience following it? Let's go. Let's get that up on screen, because that was such a game changer, like aha moment. Wow. Because I was able to see sticking with it for 14 days and what it actually did for my body. Crazy. In just 14 days, I lost 1.5 pounds of body fat. The second part is this 28-day e-course, and this is where you're really learning all of the information that you need to actually apply to see real change. And then the third part, you guys, is coming so soon. I cannot wait. Can't share too much about it, but it's going to be literally amazing and unlike anything ever before at Mindful. It's going to be that third missing piece to actually skyrocket to real lasting change. So if you want to know more about sugar and sugar's impact on the body, definitely dive into that program. And we definitely cannot talk about sugar without talking about artificial sweeteners, chemical sweeteners, and all of that stuff that adds into your food. And why is that so important? Well, chemical sugars and artificial sweeteners increase inflammation. And increasing inflammation in our body limits our body's ability for building muscle. It gets in the way, my friends. It also creates that sort of like water retention look. That's coming from inflammation, and we don't love it. And it also gets in the way of actually seeing our muscle definition that we're building. So there's 2 parts. One is actually building the muscle, and the other part is lowering fat and lowering inflammation to see the muscle that we've been working to build. So checking labels again and avoiding or even eliminating altogether artificial sweeteners, in my opinion, is a yes. I think if you're going to talk about eliminating things from your diet, there are no positives to artificial sweeteners and sugars. And to be honest, once you kind of stop eating them as much, you go back and you realize how disgusting they actually taste. I cannot get down with these. I can taste them in a second when they're in my foods or in my protein powders. It is just like a no for me. So recapping on sugar, big yes and a big heart too. Natural forms of sugars and fruits, complex carbohydrates, somewhere in the middle when we're talking about natural forms of sugar, it's definitely going to fall under my 20. We're talking about natural forms that have been processed. So even coconut sugar or agave or stripped carbohydrates, that's going to fall under our 20. And then it's just kind of a solid no-no when we're talking about chemicals in our body. I don't need them. They get in things. We got to remove the stress. We don't think too much about it. But for the most part, if you have the choice, just opt out of it. It's going to make a big difference. The other thing that sugar does is it gets in the way in our gut of actually absorbing the proper nutrients from the food that we need to build muscle. So yeah, it's not just creating the inflammation and increasing fat storage. It's actually stopping us from being able to build the muscle. That's going to be a no-no for me. Not to mention on days when I have high sugar, I cannot sleep, and sleep is where protein synthesis happens and thrives. We need to sleep to build our muscles. As we're talking about sleep, let's dive into nutrition timing because this is really important. So, a lot of us hear things about fasting or about timing for eating. The most important thing that you can do is just eat like we were supposed to eat, which is eating following our natural circadian rhythm. Sun comes up, we start eating, sun goes down, we stop eating. It's literally as simple as that if you want the most simple approach to it. We want to try to eat within a 12-hour window. That 12-hour window usually is when the sun is up, hopefully. Of course, you're going to go out for dinner with friends or have some fun here and there a little bit later. But again, everything in 80-20. So aiming for most of the time, eating within that 12-hour window in daylight. We want to try to eat some protein source within 1 hour of waking up. This is really going to help build muscle and support our body, our hormones, and that muscle development instead of breaking down muscle as fuel if we're not eating enough protein and that boost within our morning window. Now, if you're going to the gym in the morning, you want to make sure that you're eating protein before you go to the gym for sustained energy. So your body's not breaking down muscle for energy. Instead, you've given it protein, you've given it a source of energy to support you through that workout, even if that's some almonds, a bone broth, some hard-boiled eggs, just something to really support yourself with. Now, after your workout, you want to have protein to help build back those muscles. That's the real difference between eating protein before and after. Ultimately, we should hopefully be doing both. I'm not a girly who can have a giant protein smoothie and then hit the gym. So I have what's called a starter on Mindfull. This is a small snack before my breakfast. It is a protein boost before I get to my workout, before my breakfast, so that I have something in my system. It helps balance my blood sugar, helps balance my hormones, helps kickstart my metabolism. It helps supply a sustainable energy source to my body when I'm going in for my workout. And then after that workout, I get to have a giant protein breakfast, focus on energizing myself and really supporting that muscle development and growth post-workout. We also want to talk about getting the best sleep possible. And when we talk about getting the best sleep possible, this means also having enough time to digest our food, to actually go to bed and have a really great sleep and really get the proper protein synthesis that we need and that is supported by proper ample sleep. So I always like to say, again, eating within that 12-hour window. This is oftentimes called time-restricted eating, but a lot of professionals and doctors will tell you this is literally just real eating. Our ancestors ate this way. They didn't eat at night. They didn't wake up because they didn't have fridges. They didn't go downstairs and get a midnight snack. They ate in the day when they had access to fresh food. So we're eating within that 12-hour window. Let's say you're eating at 7 a.m., you're wrapping up eating by 7 p.m., and you're giving yourself ample time to properly digest so that you can go to bed, feel digested, and you don't have food sitting in your stomach that is not properly broken down. And when it does that and it's not properly broken down and it's sitting in your digestive system, it's oftentimes converted into excess fat. So we want to really think about that nutrition timing. This really changed for me because when I started to also make sure that I was fully digested before bed, it helped me get a better sleep. And I was waking up not bloated, fully digested, and ready, and also hungry. Waking up hungry is a good thing. It is great for our hormones. It is great for our blood sugar, and it really gets our body moving into the day. Now, my absolute favorite thing, which was probably the most transformative over the past 8 months, was changing my workouts and timing nutrition specifically to support those workouts. So I work out 5 times a week and I get movement in every single day for a walk or some type of movement. Let's talk about why it's important to get movement every single day. Look, we are not meant to live a sedentary lifestyle, and we really shouldn't be just sitting at our desk or sitting watching TV all day long. And even if you're getting a 30-minute workout in your day, that does not mean that you're getting enough movement to actually support yourself and support your body. We need to be moving in natural ways throughout the day. So think about things like walking to get your groceries, picking up heavy groceries, moving things around, maybe doing laundry in your house, and really just doing the actions that are actually asking your body to perform. So doing the actions that we ask our body to do every single day is also helping us build muscle in a way that is actually functional. So functional movements are things like picking up our kids, picking up our groceries, moving furniture around the house, gardening, cleaning. All of this is moving our bodies and building strength in a way that we actually need and function with. So it's really important to think about doing this every single day to some degree. So get yourself up, not just for your workout, but also for additional lifestyle things throughout your day that get you moving. I also like to take a walk every single day. Oh my gosh, there's so many benefits here, but getting mental health support, getting fresh air, moving your body so that at least I know if I took a 30 to 60-minute walk, I did my 30-minute workout, I did my stretch. I know that if the rest of the time I had to sit down and do my work, I did something additional throughout the day to actually move my body. Now let's talk about the workouts because it's really important to understand that the different type of workouts mean different things. So actually doing strength training is going to be targeting muscle development, whereas additional workouts for cardio are going to be talking more about fat burning. But there is a catch. Because when we build more muscle, we actually start to burn more fat by just having more muscle mass on. So what we want to really do is build that muscle, do that strength training, and then focus on shedding additional fat. Now, there are so many ways to get into fat burning mode, which is really just a level of elevating your heart rate so that you're in cardio. Cardio does not mean you are going for a run. It does not mean you're sitting on a spin bike. It means that your heart rate is elevated to the point that you are in fat burning mode and you are exercising your cardiovascular system, which is your heart. So what I do for this, because I am not a cardio girly, is I do heavy weightlifting with minimal amounts of rest. So if you're doing something like 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, but you're lifting heavy, you're elevating your heart rate in that workout where you're lifting the weights, doing the squats, all of the things with a small amount of rest that your heart rate is not dipping back down. You're still keeping it high. So you're consistently in fat burning mode while also building muscle. Now, building muscle is really important to actually push yourself with heavy weights, you guys. Women are so afraid to lift heavy, but it is really important that we push ourselves in the gym to lift outside of our comfort zone and get to a point of muscle exhaustion, because this is how we build that muscle. This is how we make that muscle. And this is also why it's really important to eat protein and things like a starter meal before you do your workout so that you have that energy to push yourself to muscle exhaustion and you're not pulling from muscle reserves as that energy or that fuel in your workout. That's going to be a hard no. So what you want to do is get to muscle exhaustion, which means the last few reps, you feel like you almost can't do it. The last 3-4 reps is so hard that you're at a point of muscle exhaustion. This does not mean that we're actually going to a point of injuring ourselves, but we are getting to a point where we are really stressing that muscle to actually grow. Think about anything that's hard in your life that you've gone through. When it's hard, you come back stronger and more resilient. That's what we're trying to do when we work out with our muscles. So we want to push ourselves where we actually kind of tearing the muscle a tiny bit, because that's actually where you build resilience and the muscle gets stronger and bigger. And it's really weird when you think about this because you're like, I don't want to create inflammation. I don't want to tear my muscle. I don't want to hurt myself. Of course not. We don't want to hurt ourselves. But when we feel sore, that's our muscles recovering from that sort of strenuous workout, which actually is creating those little tiny tears in the muscle that we want to rebuild. And so that's where it comes back stronger. It develops more muscle mass. It builds more muscle to recover from that small sort of tears that we're creating while we're working out. This was a big game changer, you guys. Eating that protein before and then lifting heavy and then hitting it with a lot more protein after was a game changer. This is also why a lot of women come to me and say, I'm feeling really swollen. I started working out. I feel like I'm gaining weight. Well, guess what happens when you have an injury? Think about when you hit your finger. What happens? It maybe bruises, it swells, it hurts, and it's creating this sort of swelling to heal the injury. Now, of course, we don't want to create a real injury, but as we talked about tearing that muscle, what's going to happen is going to be fluid rushing into the muscles to create that inflammation to help heal it. Now, this is really normal. We're going to see a little bit more water retention. We're going to see a little bit more swelling, a little bit more inflammation as we work to build those muscles. So if you feel a little bulky or a little inflamed from your workouts, it's actually normal and natural. But of course, we don't want too much of that because it doesn't feel good. We maybe feel less confident. Girlies, listen up. This is usually where most people fail. They start eating well. They maybe stress a little bit too much. They got to get over that hump. They've got to get away from calorie counting. Number one place where you fail. Number two place where you fail is you start working out and you think you're gaining weight. you start feeling bulky, and then you throw in the towel and you say, nope, that's not what I want. I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing it right. Well, guess what? We need to push past that, because that is actually normal to happen, especially at first, especially when we're using new muscles, especially when this is something newer and we're challenging ourselves to grow more and make bigger change. So what we want to do instead, and now this is where everything changes with nutrition, is support ourselves with an anti-inflammatory diet so that after our workouts, we're not having additional inflammatory ingredients or things that are really emphasizing the inflammation that we're getting from those little mini tears in our workout. What we want to do is support with anti-inflammatory and healing and recovering modalities. So additional modalities on top of nutrition, which is going to be the most important way to heal you guys, anti-inflammatory foods, moving away from inflammatory packaged processed ingredients, literally number one, in actually seeing that muscle turn into real muscle that we want and move away from the inflammatory, uncomfortable feeling. But number two is going to be recovery modalities. So things like sauna and ice bath, these are really, really great. Red light therapy for lowering inflammation, massage, lymphatic drainage, all of this is going to be so powerful in helping your body naturally recover. Stretching, oh my goodness, if you are a girly and you're working out and you are not stretching, you need to go right now and start stretching, because it is so important to elongate our muscles. This is also why things like Pilates and yoga have become so popular, because we're building small twitch muscles, but we're also stretching them at the same time. So when you're doing Pilates, you often don't need to do like a full stretch because you're getting a stretch to those muscles while you're also building them. Now, in my opinion, we can't do just Pilates. I think the combination of Pilates and yoga paired with strength training is really, really important. And we really see a divide on people's opinions saying, no, do Pilates, that's all you need. And we see a divide saying you got to do strength training. In my opinion, you need to do both to get optimal results. Or you better stretch every single day and do your workouts and build muscle. Because if you're not doing that, you're never going to see the results. Let's just recap a bit here, because 8 months ago, my body looked so drastically different. And like I said, I had lowered inflammation. I had gotten rid of my bloat. I had cleared my skin. I had healed my mental health issues all through whole foods and food freedom. But I wasn't seeing the results in the gym that I wanted. And that's when everything changed, when I made these small tweaks. The first, understanding different types of sugar, lowering processed sugar, and lowering chemical and maybe even eliminating chemical and fake sweeteners. Going to make a big change. Thinking about your sleep schedule and your nutrition schedule is going to be really important in protein synthesis, in converting protein and nutrients to actual muscle mass in the body. And then thinking about your workouts, the type of workouts you're doing, what those workouts mean for you, getting to a state of cardio, so high heart rate, fat burning, but building muscle, because building muscle and more muscle mass is where we actually get to burn more fat. And number 5, that recovery from nutrition to modalities is going to be crucial in seeing the success that you want. So if you are looking for similar goals, if you feel like you have been eating really well and you have been really moving your body and caring for your body, but there's simple tweaks that you just really haven't figured out and people around you seem to have gotten them, I have just debunked all of that and shared everything that I know about transforming and building muscle mass and lowering body fat and lowering inflammation. And all of these tips are just where to get started. The 28-day e-course on Mindfull, I take you through 28 additional things that are going to help support you in transforming and changing your body composition. We are recomping, lowering body fat, and increasing muscle mass to feel our best, not just now, but long term. Because higher muscle mass and lower inflammation and lower body fat ultimately means living a longer, healthier life. I truly, truly have seen this transformation. In just 8 months, I have lost 10 pounds of body fat and gained 5 pounds of muscle mass. That is hard for a woman to do. And I have put in the work with some small tweaks and made small changes to my nutrition to start to see those results. I'm so excited for where I'm going to continue to go with this, and I cannot wait to see where you go with this. The potential is literally endless with what you can do when we talk about building the body that you want. You need to feel good in your body. You need to feel confident in your body. You need to feel aligned in your body, because guess what? It's your body, and it matters how you care for it. 28 days, let's do it, baby.